We were able to build the MVP in 2 months, launch it within like 6 months-ish. With large language models these days, you literally have like super intelligence at your fingertips for like $20 a month. I didn't realize going into my entrepreneurship journey how lonely of a journey it is.
Welcome back to Founders in Motion. We're testing out a different format today with these trailers to help you understand what's going on in the episode and give a bit more clarity into what our guests are working on. Today, joining us on the podcast, we have Selina, which is one of my closest friends in life, but also the founder of gymii.ai, a platform making nutrition tracking easy and social. Like a lot of athletes, Selina spent years using tools like MyFitnessPal to stay on top of her diet. But as a professional golfer, she found logging every meal manually was tedious and frankly unsustainable. She figured there had to be a better way, something faster, smarter, and maybe a little more fun. That's how Jimmy was born. With a quick photo, the app analyzes your meal, breaks it down to key nutrition metrics, and lets you share your progress with friends. Because staying healthy shouldn't feel like a solo grind. Today, Selina shared what it's been like building Jimmy, navigating the ups and downs of startup life, and the reality of starting something alone. Selina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Thea.
Wow, it's so weird.
I know this is so weird.
So tell me a little bit about Jimmy and why should that be the one app that any listener today should download?
Yeah, happy to. So Jimmy is an AI-powered consumer app that has the goal of making nutrition tracking easy and social, as you said. So what Jimmy allows users to do is instead of manually logging their food items and their meals, you can just simply take a photo or snap a video of the meal, and our AI will automatically break it down to the various dishes, ingredients, calories, macronutrients, micronutrients. So making the process super, super seamless. And in this day and age, everyone takes photos of their food anyway. So the vision behind it was that I wanted it to seamlessly integrate into everyone's lives and make nutrition tracking no longer a chore. And the other aspect of that is I wanted it to no longer be a lonely journey. When I used to nutrition track, it just used to be such an isolating experience. So it was
Yeah.
really important for me to bring that sort of community into Jimmy. So the other aspect is having a very social and shareable experience on Jimmy. So users can share their meals, see what their friends are eating, like it, comment it, get inspiration from other people's meals, and also just share their journey.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
that's super awesome. You mentioned that you've had kind of some experience diet tracking. Was this kind of the motivation or the catalyst behind Jimmy?
Yeah, so I've been a competitive golfer for 16 years. I started golfing when I was
Wow, that's
6, started
insane.
playing, I
60.
know it's been a while. Started playing competitively from the age of 7 all the way through college. So because of my athletic experience, nutrition has always been really important for overall well-being, but also athletic performance. And I've tried nutrition tracking here and there, but I was never really able to stay consistent with it. Back then I used MyFitnessPal a little bit, but it was just such a
Like all of
tedious
us, right?
experience. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have tried the app out. Um, but it was just such a cumbersome experience that I wasn't able to stick with it. And on that flip side, I also had a lot of exposure to fitness apps or fitness gadgets. So I wear the Apple Watch. I love like looking through the amount of steps that my friends have taken throughout the day just for fun.
Yeah.
Um, Same with apps as well. Like I'm sure a lot of people know about Strava. I use it just to see the trails that my friends are running on or like the different half marathons that they're doing. And it's just a very fun and shareable experience that I felt like was really missing from the nutrition space. Like I think when people bring up nutrition tracking, there's almost like this vibe where it's, oh, like it's so annoying to do, or it's just very negative whenever the topic is brought up compared to fitness. So that was a big inspiration to what I wanted to bring with Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, that's super awesome. And I love
the way you brought in the example of Strava, because like really nice to see your friend being active. It kind of promotes you to like run more and like try new trails. But also on the flip side, sometimes it can be like a little bit competitive, like you're comparing like pace and etc. things like that. So Jimmy also has a similar kind of social feature with diet
Mm.
tracking. Like, can you talk a little bit more about community as it applies to nutrition tracking and kind of some of the
Yes.
pros and cons that comes with it?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. And I think when I first started introducing the idea of social aspects within Jimmy, I also got some pushback from people
Mm.
because, like you said, it could bring some negativity or toxicity when it comes to sharing things. And sometimes nutrition is a pretty sensitive topic for people. But the way that we designed to integrate the social features within the app, I think we thought very carefully about this. And there's a few ways that we wanted to make it a really safe type of social space. So the first thing in terms of sharing, we wanted users to have complete control of how many people they wanted to share it to. And for some people, they really only just have one friend on there, and they could also have zero friends if they didn't want to. But having that one friend as an accountability system or just like someone really, really close to you who can probably give you a lot of support, knows what you're going through, we wanted users to have the ability to make that circle really, really tight. And
Mm.
even amongst that, like you don't have to post every meal. Like you have entire control of what you want people to see and what you don't want them to see. So that was really, really important when we were integrating social aspects. I think also in terms of sharing, even though like I think there was some initial pushback. We actually did a lot of market research on whether this was something people wanted. So we surveyed, it was more than like 400 people. And the overall consensus, like it was 82% of people wanted to share their nutrition journey and wanted to share their meals with friends. It looked really different, like based on each person. Like I said, like some people just wanted that one accountability system. Some people wanted like a wider friend group just out of curiosity. But I think, like with any social things, there probably is room for some like negative aspects to it. That's probably unavoidable. But I think it's overall a net positive, and allowing users to share that experience with close friends, I think can have a lot of benefits. Also, like, I think when we were developing the app, another really important aspect is we didn't want it to be too weight or calorie focused. Like some apps out there do serve that purpose, and I see use case for that as well. But for Jimmy, we wanted it to be very inclusive. Like if you do have a weight goal, sure, like that's awesome, and we can help with that. But for some people, they just want a nutrition track to boost their immune system or just feel better in general. And we wanted to enable users to have the same experience on Jimmy if that was what they intended to achieve. So when users onboard our app, like we make sure that we get their goals, and every single meal after that they post is the nutritional information that they see is aligned to their goals. So that is also another aspect where we just wanted it to be super inclusive to everyone and just make nutrition tracking really, really accessible and fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And there's nothing better for a startup founder to just be listening to their customers, right? Or future potential customers. Where do you see AI like taking the health and wellness space?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. That's something that I've
And it
thought
could
a lot
totally be
about.
like a hot take or like a personal perspective.
Yeah, I think it's gonna massively change the space. Well, I think there's two pieces to the puzzle here. Like I think health and nutrition itself as a space, I think is just increasing exponentially. Like if you think about people around us, I feel like the overall awareness of health and wellness is so much higher. And also the overall desire to live a healthy life is also just way higher in Gen Z and millennials and the younger generations. And I think with this space having an uptake, like AI is going to play such a big role in that. in a few ways. Like I think in consumer apps, it's going to be similar things like Jimmy, where things that traditionally were maybe really tedious and really hard to do can be minimized so much to the point where it's just so much more accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
On a broader scale, I've also seen a lot of startups trying to disrupt the healthcare system because obviously there's a lot of inefficiencies in so many ways that AI could come in and completely transform the space. And consumer app, like what I'm doing, is just a very, very tiny piece of it.
As you probably not have known, but me and Selena have known each other for quite a while. And one of the most impressive things about Jimmy and Selena's building process to me was that prior to onboarding Zach, Jimmy's CTO, she wrote of almost every line of code. And why this is crazy is because during college, Selena used to come to me to ask for help on coding homeworks. What are some advice you have for not so technical founders who want to build a software product?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Thinking back, I feel like when I first started picking up computer science in college, it was so intimidating back then. With large language models these days, it's insane the amount of things you could learn. Like, it's absolutely mind-blowing. You literally have like super intelligence at your fingertips for like $20 a month. Anyone who's has an idea and is passionate enough about that idea can definitely go and build it. The fact that I basically built the MVP in 2 months with no prior full stack experience is just a testament to how powerful these systems are and like how if you're willing to harness and leverage it, it's really just that simple. You just gotta keep going at it and build something that you're passionate about. Like I think having the traditional CS experience definitely helps. And that's also why I'm doing a master's in computer science now, because I do want to have a stronger technical foundation. But I think just find a project and go for it.
So, talk to me a little bit about how you thought about funding Jimmy.
A lot of VCs are not looking into the consumer space in general right now. I didn't understand it at all in the beginning. Like I was like, oh, but consumer is like
So
such a
cool.
big market. And it's like, yeah, like if you think about like all the big apps, it's like they're all like consumer apps. The hardest part about consumer is that ultimately your clients are really unpredictable. Like if you try to serve consumers, I think there's only so many factors that you can control, and then you just have to launch it and see what people's reactions are. And a lot of times, consumers behave in ways that are just like very unpredictable. And I think for VCs, what's important for them is they see a very clean path to profitability. And a lot of times, like it just means that it's a lot harder in consumer space compared to the B2B space. So I think it took me a while to understand that from the VC perspective, but once I did, I think it actually helped my mindset because um, I think when I was talking to VCs, it definitely put me into a mindset of like, how can I please these investors, potential investors? Um, Whereas once it was clear that, at least for Jimmy, it would require us to at least gain some traction first before it's a conversation we can have about VC funding. That actually put me in such a clearer mindset because our goal and like it was our goal all along is just to build a product that users genuinely love.
Maybe it was a sentiment about like 2, 3 years ago, but everyone thought about like, oh, like AI, like you have to have VC money because like development costs were so expensive, but then you have this like insane like scalability afterwards. And now it's like with all the big like LLM models that you can call, like it's like the dynamic like shifted a little bit. And
Definitely.
also like VCs are definitely a lot more hesitant about AI powered startups now just because of the lower barriers of entry and also just like being able to handle the consumer dynamic because I mean consumers are always insanely fickle.
Unpredictable. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I totally feel you in the sense that like when you look at like all these like amazing like 2000s like startups, like you think of what? You think of Uber, DoorDash.
I think it's quite natural that for the everyday person, if you think about the biggest apps or the biggest companies out there, a lot of them are consumer apps just because that's probably what you use on a day-to-day basis, like Uber, Spotify. I don't know, like all these apps are just like definitely comes top to mind. The amount of development costs, I think, like you said, the dynamic has definitely shifted. Like to build an AI app right now, the barrier to entry for that is really so low. Like if you think about in Jimmy's case, we were able to build the MVP in 2 months, launch it within like 6 months-ish, with the cost is like very, very minimal in terms of VC money. Um, Founders have to think about like, A, are they looking to invest in this space? And also B, like, does your company really need VC money at that moment?
So Y Combinator, one of the most well-known accelerator programs, often preaches the importance of having a co-founder. You were a solo founder for a couple months, for quite some time. So can you talk to me a little bit about like the pros and cons of the experience?
Yeah, I think this question is something where depending on which founder you ask, everyone's gonna have very different opinions on. My personal opinion is I am so glad I found a co-founder. I think when I was a solo founder up until December, the pro of that is you can really do whatever you want every day. But that comes with a lot of cons because I think it can get quite disorganized. Having a co-founder as like a check and balance was really is really important to me, and we'll have basically check-ins to make sure that we're doing things that are A, like our strengths, and B, like the highest priority for the company. I think that is one aspect that I really, really value in having a co-founder. And I think the second aspect is I didn't realize going into my entrepreneurship journey how lonely of a journey it is. I think I was somewhat warned about it beforehand, um, but it was a very stark contrast from being in college, being part of a sports team, then going into corporate, where I had an amazing team, and amazing colleagues, to then being like completely alone in the journey.
Yeah.
And it was like really lonely in the sense that I had friends, obviously, including you, who were super, super supportive. My family was super supportive. But like the day to day of what I was doing was like kind of unknown to everyone. And I also didn't want to burden everyone with like all the things that I was thinking of. And I think once I brought in a co-founder and now the team has expanded a little bit, it's just makes the experience a lot more fun too, because now we're all in it together every day. We're like, okay, should we do this? Should we do that? What should we prioritize? And having that shared experience is just really, really special. So yeah, I am personally a big advocate of finding a co-founder. And also I just think like startup, like I'm sure there's people who like can manage everything by themselves and maybe have the experience to be able to do that. But in general, I feel like the to-dos of running a startup is just endless, and there's so many different categories of things from like the engineering side to the business side to the legal side to the social media side. Like the task list is endless. So I think like having someone there to each person take the things that they're the best at is just gonna make the company move forward so much faster.
Yeah. And I will also say that even without startup life, the to-do list always feels very overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But
Adult life.
it was also very hard for you to find a co-founder, right? Like, how did you go about it? And I think what really made you have the confidence in Zach to like have this long-term partnership?
How did I find Zach? It was definitely, it took me a while. I started searching essentially when I started school in August, and we didn't agree as co-founders until December. So it was like 4 months of searching. I think I'm trying to think of the exact way I knew that he was gonna be an amazing co-founder. I think one thing that helped was having a trial period. He essentially joined the team back in October. So it was like 2 months of trial as well on Jimmy because I think it was very clear from the get-go that his experience would be very complementary to mine and be very strong as a CTO because he's done a few startups before himself. So really, really loved the startup space. And all of his startups were in the social media space as well. Um, but I think like there's definitely cases where someone could be a great engineer and like have all the experiences, but if you don't click with them, it just doesn't work. So it was really, really important to me that we had that time to see if we can communicate well, to see if we like can just work well with each other and work really, really efficiently. And I think like by the time it was end of November, I was just so sure. Like we would just be
Mm.
able to split up tasks, get it done, have really, really clear communication, um, and also be able to disagree with each other. Like I think that is really, really important when finding a co-founder, finding someone who's willing to challenge on your ideas, which Zach and I definitely go back and forth about what's the best thing to do. And I think having that type of dynamic, but keeping it friendly in terms of the disagreement and being able to like calmly reach a conclusion together, is a very powerful dynamic. And I think, yeah, Zach's been an amazing co-founder, and I'm so excited to see how far this partnership can go.
It is really important to have the trial period, right? Because like on paper you could match, but it is like a marriage. Like you need to like figure out who how the person picks or like what
Yeah.
aggravates them or like how does this person communicate? I know for the past few months, the team has been like super focused on getting the product ready to launch. And by the time this podcast airs, Jimmy will be live in the App Store and Google Play Store. So, what are some of your top priorities moving forward?
Yeah, I think now it really is just a matter of fact of getting Jimmy out there and letting the world know about Jimmy. Like the app is finished, honestly, and it's ready to launch. And we're spending a lot of time on the marketing aspects right now. So we're very active on our social media, trying to make it fun, trying to make it engaging. We're partnering with micro influencers so that they can help get the word out there as well. Like I think now is the flip side of my founder journey, where the initial part was all like in the weeds of engineering and trying to get every feature perfect. Well, it's never going to be perfect, but getting it good. And now it's the flip side of how do I market Jimmy and really just put it out there and get it to our target users. So from now to launch, it's all efforts in that. And once we launch, we'll be able to get a lot of feedback from real users out there. Like up till now, we're beta testing with more than 100 people, but really getting it out to strangers and seeing what the response is and iterating and growing from there.
Now seems like a busy next couple months for the team.
Definitely busy, but it's really fun. I think a great thing about entrepreneurship is because you handle all these different aspects of the company, you can jump around and like every day just looks so different. Like, or even within a day, it just looks so different. Like today, the entire morning I was spending on the engineering coding side, and then I switched over to making a reel, and then you switch over to like reaching out to micro influencers and you switch over to like meeting with the team and figuring out next steps. It's just all over the place, so, so chaotic, but in a really, really fun way.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And it's super funny how you mentioned like creating media content. Like I think I'm also personally trying to create media content for the podcast, and it's like a really humbling experience.
It's not
Um,
easy.
yeah,
Like
honestly, like kudos to like all the like student ambassadors,
content
all the
creators.
influencers that can do it, but I take a video and then look at myself and I'm like, wow, like
No, I'm so excited to see the founder in motion content. But I definitely agree. It's a very humbling experience and also like kind of scary to put yourself out there. Like I see a
yeah,
lot of founders right now who are documenting their building process and basically making that whole process public to the world. I think what we're doing with Jimmy right now is a bit of that, not fully because if I were to do that, I should have done that 6 months ago. But I
I
am
mean, it's never too
documenting
late,
like
you know?
it
So
is never too late. Yeah, I have been mixing it up with like a day in my life content or just showing me as the builder and also user of Jimmy, which I think is engaging content. But it is scary going from like I used to have my Instagram be private and just like
yeah,
everyone on my social media I basically knew to now like putting myself out there. Um, but it's part of the game. I think it's good exposure and it's also once you get used to it, it's fine. Like it's I've been posting myself for honestly it hasn't been that long, like for a week, but it does get less and less scary as you go.
thank you so much, Selena, for joining us. The audience, you'll definitely hear from Selena again because I will use any excuse to speak to Selena. But I'm so excited for Jimmy to finally launch and for people to kind of get their hands on a really cool app that I've been beta testing for the last couple months.